So, no other way could we start the month of May by doing it in a certain way where I am criticising Stranger Things once more, and obviously sarcasm speaks for itself. But welcome back to the James Ramblin Reviews, and today, tonight, or whenever you're watching this, it is a criticism of Stranger Things, because I'll talk about the Tales of 85 animated show, and I have tried to record this video a few times, but this time will be the best recording that I can possibly do. So, if you don't already, I've done a quick reaction of Stranger Things Tales from 85, also have done reviews of all the other seasons, so there is all of that. I'll try and make this a bit of a quicker video. And so, what you need to know about Stranger Things Tales from 85 is that it's an animated spin-off of Stranger Things, where it is a bit more of a quick animated show that's, you've got about 10, 20 to it's like 28, 29, 30 minute long episodes, where it is trying to be set during in between Stranger Things season 2 and Stranger Things 3 and stuff like that. And so what I'll say is I'll talk about the animation, a little bit about the voice acting, the pacing, all of that stuff. And so the first thing that came to mind for me when I was watching the show was the animation. It did stick out like an absolute sore thumb, because it was like, the animation, there's something about it. So I kept watching, and I kept watching, right, and it was like, yeah, this animation is horrible in my opinion. It just doesn't look appealing, exciting, or anything like that. Like, sure, there is some, like, see when it does show you close-ups of the monsters and stuff like that, there's kind of like a cool glow about the monsters, but the characters themselves, it just feels a bit strange, no pun intended, but it does feel a bit strange when you do see them with the animation, and the animation just for me wasn't that great. So there is that aspect of it. And let's move on to the voice acting, because they made an interesting choice here where a lot of the voice actors are not, like, you know, they're not the same actors as the characters that acted as the characters from Stranger Things, if that makes sense. So it's completely different people, and because obviously it's a spin-off, they would not have the original actors anymore, and the original actors have moved on to do films. Like, obviously I did actually review some films with the Stranger Things cast, like, you know, Joel Keery went on to do Cold Storage, and then Gaten Matarazzo done Pizza Movie, so there is things like that there. But so the voice acting, I know the voice acting was alright, but I have to be honest, there are some moments in here where some of the dialogue is pretty cringy sometimes, and pretty silly as well, where the characters say the most silly things. And there's like a line in the show and stuff like that where you have Hopper, you know, Hopper who was the cop and things, and he was helping out Eleven and the children and things like that, and there's this moment, and I'm pretty sure it's like in the final episode or something like that, where it just says, go on and play that wizard game and things like that. And so there'll just be these silly one-liner things that are all throughout the show, and, you know, and things like that, and you could tell that it is a kids show when it's all a bit exaggerated dialogue, and it's all a bit silly and a bit quirky, but it just wasn't. It's just not appealing in a certain way, where if you're just trying to engage in the story, trying to engage in the characters, but then the dialogue where they say these silly, goofy, oopsie daisy, all of that sort of dialogue, it's like, you know, kind of, oh, don't know if I like that. And so there is that as well. And then there is the pacing of the show, because while these episodes are 20 minutes long each, it never feels like the story gets off on a really, really fast start, where you exactly know how the story is going to progress and things. It just feels like the characters are going after the monsters. the new character gets introduced, and then it kind of just slowly integrates every aspect of the show, and it slowly gets there. It kind of just sways about and waits for it to happen, and feels like a bit of filler involved in that as well, where you're waiting about for about 3 or 4 episodes before you really get anything going. And later on in the show, they do reveal things about why these monsters were created and who created them and who was behind it all and things like that. But it just feels like when you're trying to watch it, it feels like there's so much stuff where you're like, oh, it just feels like pointless things are happening instead of something meaningful, something impactful, something that's going to really elevate the story, like things like that. So that's been a problem with TV shows I've noticed in the past few years, where they just manage to drag it all out. Like could be 8 episodes, could be 12 episodes, whatever. And you even get that with anime shows, like Japanese anime, where you've got points where there's 15 episodes where there's just so much not really happening, and that's what this feels like. This feels like there's anime filler arcs in this where it takes so long to really get on the front foot. So there is that aspect of it, and I'll be honest, that's how I felt about it. And so the animation was a bit and then the voice acting was a bit silly voice acting, silly dialogue and all of that, and obviously the filler aspect of it too. But another thing that stood out to me was how that Stranger Things Tales from 85 just recycles the same scenes from the original show. And you probably think to yourself, why would that be a criticism? It's Stranger Things, obviously it's going to be connected, but it's the way in which it's used, is that it just kind of just rehashes a scene from Stranger Things kind of thing, instead of it doesn't, for me it doesn't feel like it's a big deal in the show, because you've already got the new character and it starts to move on from the scene that was already shown and things like that. So it kind of just throws in the scenes from Stranger Things, like, oh, remember this from Stranger Things, instead of having this big impactful moment. And the only kind of time I remember when the rehashing of the scenes actually came into fruition was when they used the typical Stranger Things motto of 11 shuts the gate to the upside down, right? And that's kind of what you start to see towards the end of the show. And so overall, that's how I felt about the show. And if you actually like the series, then fair play to you, fair play to you, because see, to me, that's just how I felt, you know what I mean? And so overall, I will give this let's see here, about 5 out of 10. It was watchable, but it just never really worked for me. I tried my best, gave it my all watching it, killed a lot of time watching it as well, and it's just overall how I felt about it. And I feel like I'm getting an itchy throat now, because been doing a few attempts of this video, but that's my best attempt of this video, right? I will go and I will drink a bunch of water or whatever after this video, because I'm probably gonna go and drink a bunch of water and forget I even watched this show. Because yeah, it's just one of those things where you just watch it and you move on, and that's what's gonna happen. There is a season 2 confirmed as well, but I'll see if I'll even bother with it after my experience with this. So yeah, see you after. Stay tuned for more reviews on the James Almond Reviews, and that's been me. See you after. Bye bye bye.